Hello Sagittarius. Great to have you here. My name is Shauna. Today's reading is a general love forecast for November 2025. As always, take the messages that resonate and release anything that doesn't. Don't forget to like and subscribe to stay connected with upcoming readings. Let's see what's headed your way, Sagittarius. A bit life-changing, okay, will be very important. So hopefully you guys will be able to watch this video ahead of time, and if it applies to you, then you can take the advice accordingly, because I feel like this is a big month for major changes for many of you. The major arcana cards are split in half. Some of them can be, I guess, like a little bit negative, but then the other three cards are positive. So I feel like it's a very split energy. Let me just talk to you about what I saw, and I'm still trying to make sense of it, but maybe, you know, in the process of talking about it, I'll get some clarity as well for you guys. So first of all, I saw two images, and the first one is, I saw this squirrel, okay? So he's found like two chestnuts or two acorns on the ground. He has something on the ground, and he picks it up, and he has two, and he's holding it in his little front paws. And he climbs up a tree, and he has a tree that he always goes to you know, put away his stash. And he looks around to make sure that no one sees him. And then he burrows himself into this little hole in the tree. And then he puts away his stash, and then he kind of like pokes his head out, looks around to make sure no one sees what he's doing. And then he exits the hole, climbs back down the tree, and starts looking around for more resources, for more thinking, like it's okay for us to take care of our assets, okay? It's okay for us to kind of like cover our own behind. It's okay for us to be a little bit selfish and learn to take care of ourselves. So that was like the initial message I got in, that came through. And so what I feel might be really important for you guys as we round out this year is for you to re-examine your financial assets, okay? Look through your ledgers, look through bank account, look through wherever it is that you swirl away your money, to make sure that things are where they're supposed to be. Okay, so I feel like there might have been wrong charges to your bank accounts, to your credit cards. There might have been money, you know, inadvertently like taken out, or there might have been wrongfully charged transactions. So I feel like it's really important for you to kind of like look through your financial ledgers to make sure everything is up to date, and to make sure that everything is squared away the way it should be. I'm also seeing this sneaky behavior, not in a bad way, of course, of like needing to separate your assets, needing to kind of like swirl money away in a place where you know it's safe, okay? So like having a safe place or a safe space for yourself or for your financial resources would be really good for you. Having a safe place for you to be in, for you to like retreat to when things get a little bit dicey, wherever, with whomever you're dealing with. That's also going to be very crucial for this month, okay? So I almost feel like you're gearing up for battle. I almost feel like you're contemplating or thinking about some major big change in your life that requires quite a bit of financial resources, or even resources in general, whatever that might be: time, money, energy, you know, just like you're gearing up for something really big, and you need to make sure that everything is lined up, okay? So I have a Sagittarius moon, and I know Sagittarius people really hate like bookkeeping, itemizing, making lists, making, you know, check off things, and making sure every little thing is where it's supposed to be. Like that is one of the worst things that a Sagittarius, you know, would like. That's one of the worst things that I feel, you know, you can subject a Sagittarius to, because you guys don't like to do these little minute details that is time consuming and tedious, and overall it's not really fun. But because you don't like to do it, I feel like there's more urgency, lay out everything in front of you and just, take a few hours of your day and try to knock those things out. Okay. For many of you, this could be like, end of the year, like accounting. Okay. So itemizing everything that you have spent, all the expenses, all the expenditures, all your revenue, like whatever it is. I see a lot of just numbers, a lot of things in front of you that you have to like itemize, square away, file away. And I know it's very tedious and it sounds so excruciatingly painful to have to do, but it's really important that you do it. Okay. So that's the first thing coming out. And the theme that I'm seeing is definitely kind of echoed in the cards. Okay, so let me show you all the major arcana cards, and I'm trying to make sure I don't lose the order here. We have the High Priestess. We have Temperance. Let me show you this card, Temperance. This is your card. We then have the Strength card. Then we have the Magician. So 4 major arcana here. We have the Devil. And then we also have the Hierophant. So what I initially picked up as pretty much the theme for this reading is I almost feel like there's a huge tug of war happening within you, okay, in your psyche or in your emotional state, okay. And I feel like what it is there's overall what I'm seeing as a sense of like restraint, and then wanting to the opposite of that. So there, on the one hand, there's this duality about having a lot of self-control, having a lot of control in general, having a lot of restraint, doing things the proper way, itemizing everything, and making sure that everything is like calibrated, carefully planned out, carefully thought about. Okay. And then the other side of you just wants to like dash in, get your hands dirty and then ask questions later. And these two sides of yourself are kind of like it's like a tug of war happening within you, and it frustrates you. That's what I feel. And I also feel like with this energy, the High Priestess, hanging on to something very, very tightly, okay? Caring for something. And I almost feel like you might be overstepping your boundaries when it comes to the way in which you take care of another person. And I don't feel like this is something that's happening overnight, or it's something where it's like, once in a while. I feel like this is an ongoing pattern or an ongoing process in which you're doing everything for another person. For some of you, it could be a child. You're not allowing that child to be, self-sufficient. For others of you, it's like, taking on the role of the maternal, the parental figure, so that you're doing something completely for another person, and then they come to rely on you, and then they don't know how to be self-sufficient. Okay? This is like holding on, wanting to control a situation very, very much, like so tightly, that it stifles the growth of that entity, that person, that child, that plant, that house pet, that baby, whatever it is. It's stifling the potential and the growth potential of that entity. So I feel like this is an ongoing process, because I feel like it has dragged on for many, many years. And so once we become aware of it, as you guys might have been aware of it, it's really hard to loosen the reins, right? It's really hard to kind of like be so emotionally wrapped up and invested in something, and now all of a sudden you're forced to kind of like back off pretty much, and now you're what's going to happen to it. And I feel like it's not really in your control. It's not really your place to exert that much control and influence over that entity. So I do feel here the universe is pretty much telling you to loosen the reins, okay? Loosening the reins doesn't mean that we're no longer in the driver's seat, we're no longer in control. It just basically means that we're practicing kind of like loving detachment, and we're allowing that entity enough space and enough distance to grow, and we're allowing ourselves to, trust that we have done a good job, so that when we loosen the reins and back off and step aside and watch it from the sidelines, that it's still going to be able to function and perform the way that we expect it to. Okay, so I feel for many of you, this is a very maternal, paternal type of an energy, where you might be, for example, your kids might be going off to college, and you're just like, oh, you're racked with anxiety, and you're not really sure how they're going to be able to take care of themselves, because you've taken care of everything for them. And then for others, this is like you started a project, a really, really big project. It's like your love child, and you're launching it, and you're just racked with anxiety, not really knowing how it's going to take off. And then for others, this is like a relationship partner that you might have to detach yourself from. Okay. And I feel really funny saying this to especially in a Sagittarius reading, because you guys are very live and let live. You're not clingy. You're not, you don't tend to overstep emotional boundaries in this way. But I feel like for whatever reason, you're emotionally very invested in this entity. And so you want it to do well, and you see it as an extension of you as well. And there, regardless of whoever or in whatever capacity you're dealing with this entity, I just feel like there's also like a sense of paternal, maternal pride associated with it, which might not be completely healthy if it's like a relationship partner, right? But I also feel like, I also feel as if you understand yourself that is not healthy, that you kind of need to, um, this is like, I almost feel this element of control, okay? The bird is like holding the reins, controlling this wild beast. It seems to me like there's an element of control. There's an element of like, something that's very mechanical, something that's like automation, something that's just like going with the flow, not having to think, somebody who is well taken care of, that they never have to think about what they need to do to take care of themselves. And when we put another person in this type of a situation, we take away their free will and their human agency and their ability to act and think for themselves and their ability to grow as a person. So I do feel like this energy might not be completely healthy. So if you're aware of this, it is time for you to really, really loosen the reins a lot more, so that, this situation can start to, I guess, thrive and flourish on its own. Okay. Next to that, I have here the devil. And this is like, the way I look at this card is, it's something that's very debilitating. Okay, it could be physically, mentally, health-wise, but this woman, she's got a blindfold on. So I feel like it's like a situation where we're in denial of something. Okay. We're in denial of for some of you, dwindling resources. Okay. And of course, not all of you are going to be in this situation, but I do feel like we can no longer be in denial. We need to, take out the spreadsheet, go through all of our bank ledgers, and try to figure out, how much financial resources we have at our disposal, how much we can afford to spend, how many more years we need to work before we can completely retire and be comfortable financially. We need to see, if we're planning to sell a house, for example, we need to look at the market price and do some preliminary research to see how much the house is worth. So I feel like there's a lot of financial planning here that you haven't been too savvy about, that you need to, work at. And I do feel like it's better for you to be ahead of this energy and to know how much assets you have and to know your financial standing and your financial situation before something else happens. So I just feel like there's something you've been in denial about, and you kind of brushed it off. And it's really time for you to just, face those fears, because if you think about it, all the in the previous few years, for example, the previous 5 years, the things that you really feared, once you face them head on, you realize they're not that scary, right? So we have a habit of making like mountains out of molehills, and so when we don't like to do something in our heads, those annoyances or those things that we don't want to do, they get bigger and bigger. And I feel like if you just sit down and tackle it head on, it's not going to be that bad. So I would urge you to not procrastinate on this, and just, take off those blindfolds and really look at, really get the proper information to know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay, so that's the really important message, because it's all concentrated in this area where the 5 major arcana cards are located. So I do feel it's time for you to kind of like have mastery over this situation. Okay, get out from behind the steering wheel and just look at the situation and examine it and have control over it. So the magician energy it's a really strong energy. It basically indicates manifesting, being able to turn a situation and manipulate a situation in your favor. So I do feel like things are not what they seem, and they're not that scary. So it's really important for you to own up to your sense of power and take control of this situation. Okay, so those are like all the disparate messages that I was picking up from that first image. Okay, the other thing that I do feel as well is if you're dealing with another person and you're financially linked up with them. Okay, the devil energy and the 8 of Pentacles really indicates, a situation that you've really worked hard at. And I do see a little bit here about, the environment, other people, circumstances, life choices, events, culture, religion, even, that's pigeonholing you into doing something, right? And I feel like you were expected to do something, and you stuck it out because that was what was expected of you. And I feel almost like whatever that was really expected of you, you never questioned it. You never question, is this the right path for me? Is this my destiny? Is this something that I really, really want? Is this, you just took it at face value that that was the best optimal outcome, or that was what was expected of you. You never questioned it. And coming into this month, I do see a lot of self-awareness, a lot of realization, a lot of this energy here with the High Priestess. It's like really knowing ourselves, knowing deep down in our hearts of hearts, in the recesses of our minds and our hearts and our soul, what is good for us, what really inspires us, what really excites us, what we really want as an individual, once we peel away all those layers of societal expectations, family expectations, doing what is required or expected of us because that was what we did, because we were it was imposed upon us. So I do feel here you're casting away those chains, okay? Literally just like breaking free. And I feel starting over. And I feel as well figuring out like very carefully measuring and trying to figure out, if this didn't work for me, if I've worked really diligently, for the past 8 years at it, and it wasn't right for me, what else is there? Like, what's the alternative? What's the outcome? And I would urge you, don't sway too far on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Okay, so for example, you might have been that, really, really diligent student, going through med school, law school, or doing something, like working on your master's degree or a PhD, and then you're just like, I'm burnt out. Um, I'm having doubts whether or not this is the right career path. And then, the opposite end of the spectrum is just like dropping school altogether, withdrawing from all of your classes and taking a sabbatical and just, traveling for 3 years. I would say the answer that you're looking for is somewhere in between, and you don't have to take such drastic changes, okay? A lot of the times when we feel like we've been shackled or stuck in a situation for so long, once we have our sense of freedom back, we feel like we want to, go wild. But I do sense in this situation, it would be best for you to, have a game plan, lay out something like a blueprint of the alternative courses that you might take. Okay, for some of you this might be a schooling situation, because that courses, it resonated. So I feel like chart out a new course for yourself to figure out what's a more moderate or less extreme road or route that you can take in once you've decided this is not right for you. What is a more or a more moderate or a better fit for you? So going from there, okay? So don't let your energy fluctuate to the other end of the spectrum, because I feel like you might make some decisions that you're going to regret. Okay, so just a heads up, because I do feel this tug of war. And when you look at people in a tug of war, it's like you have a bunch of people on one team and a bunch on another. And if they're constantly tugging, then no one's really falling down. However, if one side decides to just let go of the rope, the other side will be able to pull, and then all of their members will like stagger to the floor, right? So I feel like maintaining that push and pull, and also that equilibrium, is going to be really important, so that you don't so that you're still, finding your center, and so that things don't drastically go awry. Okay, so I hope that the reading still resonates, and I hope that you're still watching this, and I hope that it is still going to be helpful for you guys. Now, the last 4 cards, you have some really good, amazing cards, okay? So I feel like there was some major things, hurdles that you have jumped through. As we round out the month, it's still kind of like, plastered, I feel like, on the right side of your head. You're going about your day, but you're still thinking about it because it's plastered on this side of your head, and you're still like, it's weighing you down a little bit. It nags at you, and you're just like, okay, I'll take care of it. I'll take care of it. But I do feel like, finances needs to be ironed out. Figuring out the next path. I feel for many of you, I do see a lot of people who might have finished like a specific course of study, and now they're contemplating, do I go for more education, or do I want to get out into the world and make money? For some of you, you're impatient. You want to go out there and make your mark on the world, make money, and not be like, struggling financially while you're in school. It's not fun. And so you're really trying to, grapple between like more schooling so I can like increase my earnings in the future, or start working now so I can get the work experience while the going's hot. I feel like you're grappling with these major life change and turning points in your life. For others as well, I feel like, divvying up your assets. So it could be like, it could be like filing for something, filing for something, and you filing papers, filing for something, and you're trying to swear away or swirl away some assets, hide some assets, so that it doesn't show on your statement. So there's something like that happening. And I just feel like moderation is the key. Okay. Anyway, so on this side, there was another image that I saw, and it looks really good. I actually feel like I'm going to clear these off because I feel like that energy is done and over with. But let me just leave the cards out here. So what I have here is the Ten of Cups. This is a beautiful card. I have the Knight of Pentacles. I have the Hierophant. We saw that earlier. And then the Two of Cups. Okay, so these are lovely, lovely cards. So what I saw pertaining to these four cards is I see a woman's hands. There's like a bowl, a plastic bowl, and there's some dough, like some flour and water and a little bit of salt. So somebody's like kneading some dough, right? And for those of you who are not familiar with baking and kneading and you know, flour and things like that, so to knead dough, you need, you know, flour and water, right? And you have to be really careful about the amount that you put in. It has to be measured. It has to be measured, okay? Measured perfectly right. So if you put way too much water in, it gets sticky and it just gets into every crevice of your fingers, and it's really frustrating having to knead it because it sticks everywhere. And then if you get it too dry, and every time you thump it down into the bowl, the dry flour fluffs up and gets all over your face, gets all over the counter, it gets all over the surface that you're working on. So a delicate balance, okay? Anyways, I see these hands kneading dough. And so what I feel is there's a specific area in your life where, Sagittarius, you just want to jump right in, roll up your sleeves, get your hands dirty, and just, you know, indulge, okay? Like, I feel this really strong tactile, it's very tactile. It's very like, it reminds me of like one of the Cancerian reading for last month where I felt like they were just frustrated. They didn't want to answer to anybody. They didn't want to restrain themselves. They didn't want to do something. They didn't want to be to have to hold themselves back. So that's what I felt. It's like, and for many of you, I feel like this is your energy or another person that you're dealing with. So here's what I'm sensing. Okay, there's like a relationship situation here. There is a relationship here, and there are some scenarios that are coming up strongly. I feel for many of you, we have the Hierophant and the Two of Cups. I feel like you might be dealing with someone who's in a relationship, who's like already married, okay? And then I also feel like the connection between the two of you is very strong, okay? It's like the fish, okay? And I almost feel like the two of you, if you work together, you're a very good like partner. Like work, the work relationship is amazing. The two of you, if you were, you know, if you happen to be both single and dating, this is like a power couple. I always think of the fish as like, you know, it generates prosperity, and that's why we have like fish in the koi ponds, right? So it generates prosperity. So it's like together, the two of you would generate a lot more money as a couple. So this is like a power couple dynamics that I'm seeing here. But I feel like you might be married or they might be married. But the connection between the two of you is very undeniable, and it's really strong. And the two of you have this really strong, playful energy with each other. And I do feel like, you know, there's a lot of tension. There's a lot of like this romanticism that's kind of like suppressed. And that's why I just kept feeling like, you know, you really like this person, and they likewise, they feel the same way about you. And I felt like you just want to just ignore that responsible part of yourself, you know. Hey, I'm in a relationship, or hey, they're in a relationship, we shouldn't go there. You kind of want to ignore that part of yourself and just like plunge right in, get your hands dirty. Okay, that's what it feels like to me. And then for others of you, I feel like for whatever reason, there's something about this relationship that's taboo. Okay, I do feel for many of you cultural differences, even though I don't know why that would be taboo, or even like a workplace romance where it's not allowed by HR, for example, or you don't want to taint this relationship because you work together. There might be religious factors, there might be family, like for example, your family might want you to, um, date somebody from a specific religion, date somebody from a specific race. There's something here about like I almost feel like star-crossed lovers meeting somebody at the wrong time. Okay, and I also feel like there's a lot of restraint here. It could just be a professional type of a relationship, and you want more out of it, and the other person also wants more out of it. The Hierophant screams out to me like tradition, like it's the pillar of morality. So I feel like there's something here that might be posing as a huge temptation for many of you. And you want to indulge in it, but I do sense like your judgment, or the other person's judgment, or the other person's sense of morality, or your own might be at risk, or might be on the line as a result of indulging in this type of a relationship. So that's what I'm seeing here with the bottom two cards. For those of you who are dating new people, okay, like you're in the dating phase, getting to know, trying to figure out, are we exclusive and things like that. You have some really amazing things coming through. The partner that you're dealing with, I have here the Knight of Pentacles. This is somebody who's still trying to figure out things in their life, okay? It's a very slow moving character. Okay, he's not getting anywhere. He's better off getting off that animal and just walking, in his heavy armor. So I feel like you're dealing with someone. I'm getting the word clumsy, okay? Clumsy. So I'm hearing that you might be dealing with someone who's a little bit inexperienced. Inexperience when it comes to relationships, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to being a good relationship partner. It doesn't mean that they have any bad intentions. It just means that they need a little bit more guidance and they need a little bit more time. So you have to be very patient with this person. Okay, so I feel like there's someone who's clumsy. So for example, if you're like going on a date, they might not, open the doors. They might not open the car door. They might not be aware that you have certain food allergies. They might not be aware that you don't like a specific type of food. So I feel like it's somebody who's like still new at this, and they're taking their time. And you have to be very patient with this person. And I feel like, beneath that armor is a heart of gold. Like it's someone who's really good, okay, who's very thoughtful. They need to, come into their own a little bit. So just please be patient. And I also feel like they're very serious. Like they're looking for their happily ever after, like looking for a solid relationship. I have here the 10 of Cups. And this is a family card. And what I do see with this card, once again, interracial couples, people who have differences when it comes to their political beliefs, their ideological beliefs, their profession, their career goals, and even their religious beliefs. Okay, so I do see this is kind of like that crossroads. But life wouldn't be interesting unless you're dating somebody who's different from you, right? So that you can learn. So I do feel like there is an element here about, two people who are very, very different, and yet when they come together, there's great complementarity because they're learning a lot from one another. So I do feel there's a potential here for a relationship that will, stand the test of time. It's also interesting enough to keep you learning and growing and to keep you interested. And then I also feel, it's stable enough where it can lead to the whole marriage. It can lead to long-term commitment. And it can lead to a lot of compatibility once you've worked out all the kinks, okay? So I feel like you just want to plunge right in, get your hands dirty. But when it comes to relationships, like cooking, you want to make sure the pan is in place. You want to make sure you preheat that oven. You want to make sure that everything is lined up systematically so that the kitchen doesn't end up in utter chaos with flour everywhere. So I feel like in this situation, moderation is key, and holding yourself back and is really key. So reining yourself back so that you don't scare the other person off or even sabotage the situation by rushing too fast and getting yourself into a situation before you are clear with the other person, what their expectations are, what your expectations are. For those of you who have been waiting on communication for from another person, excuse me, I have here the Knight of Pentacles. It's going to come in this month, possibly when we transition into the sign of Capricorn. So that's like the cutoff is around. One of the reasons why there is significant delay is when I look at birds, I think of them as messengers, okay? They chirp, they make noise, they announce their arrival. And with this owl, the owl stands for wisdom. And I feel like this person doesn't just want to communicate, they want a thoughtful sentence. They want to construct a thoughtful narrative in their mind first before they communicate. So they're not going to, shoot off like whatever comes to mind, like, hey, in a text. They're going to take their time to construct their sentences, to ask you meaningful questions, and to, follow up with the conversation with meaningful responses. So I feel like there's somebody here that has been mulling over, thinking heavily about, like, how to communicate, how to reach out, what to say. And I do feel like there's just,